Hey, it's Darik with another edition of Instagood on now 100.5, powered by JustServe.org. Today, we're sitting down with Kevin Snyder-Diffin. He is a sergeant in the Army. He did 2 tours in Afghanistan. And first of all, Kevin, thank you for your service. And thank you for always being a good friend. And I appreciate the fact that you're joining us. And by the way, Kevin is a Sacramento native, actually Roseville. And you lived, I think, Roseville and Orangevale, right? Tell us where you grew up.
Born in Roseville and lived in Orangevale, like right on Lake Natoma.
And all the way up until you joined the Army, right?
Yep.
And by the way, we were talking off camera. Tell everybody the setup and how your phone is set up while you're doing this interview.
My phone is currently leaned up on a mobile platform that has my daughter's fingernail painting station.
Right, her manicure station?
Yeah, manicure station. I mean, I'm sitting in front of me with and fake. Oh, here's a pretty one.
Hey, look at that. Nice. What's your daughter's name?
Zoe.
How old is she?
Almost 14.
I remember Zoe, and the reason I asked this, obviously, for people watching, I remember Zoe. I remember meeting her when she was about 6 years old. It's hard to believe that much time has passed by, man.
Yeah, a lot of behind the scenes, Andy Grammer.
Yeah, we like I said, been a friend of show for a long time, a friend of me, and you've met a lot of the artists we have on the radio station. And I remember Zoe coming to a lot of the events when she was a young girl. She started her first day at 8th grade today, right?
First day at 8th grade. Yep.
I bet and I believe that, I think, if I remember correctly, your wife is also in the service as well, correct? Or was?
Prior service.
Sorry?
She's prior service.
Prior service member, that's right. How does your daughter feel about having 2 very proud parents who are a member of the military?
Like every other child who just wants their way. And I don't know. She's got me on her finger. I mean, I started skateboarding again because Zoe wants to go skate at the skate park on her roller skates. So I've taken skateboarding back up. I'm getting pretty good.
I know how much you love those 2 girls. I mean, I remember they're your world, and you're a great dad and a great husband, and you're the best, man. Let's talk about, first of all, we've got the 20th anniversary of 9/11 this Saturday, and you did 2 tours in Afghanistan. Can you explain to us in each one what your role was, and just tell us about your personal experience there, and just your perspective about what you hope happens now that the war is over for those service members who have returned home?
So my first tour, I was purely a mechanic on a Black Hawk helicopter. So I did a lot with fixing the aircraft, making sure that they are, ready and set up for mission, getting the major maintenance done and completed. As well as retrofitting if there was anything that was damaged on the aircraft. That was the first tour in 2013. And then this last tour, 2018, 2019, I was a crew chief on a Black Hawk, but a medevac platform. So we basically go out and we would pick up wounded off the battlefield and bring them back to the hospitals.
What was your experience like picking up the wounded on medevac? Do you remember anything that really struck you, something that is in your memory forever that you can share with us?
There's plenty. There's one that I share with, not with the world, but one that really, really touched me. It touched my heart. It didn't go to my head. It touched my heart. We'd gone to land at landing X. It was dusty. It was dark, red illumination. Can't really see anything. We came in for a couple of patients. One had a bilateral amputation. The other had a compound femoral break. I was in the back assisting the medic, and Maggie was helping the patient with the bilateral amputation. I was helping the patient that had a compound fracture of his femur. And I remember him reaching up towards me, and I would keep my sidearm right here, and I thought he was reaching up at my sidearm. So I was kind of pushing his hand away, and one time he just grabbed my hand and he just looked up at me and squeezed my hand. And then that was with his left hand grabbing my right hand. And then with his right hand, he reached over to his buddy, who was laying right next to him in the aircraft, and grabbed his hand. And I remember hearing over the internal comm system, when we turn it on, it's called hot mic. So when the mic's hot in the back of the aircraft and not push to talk,
Sure.
I heard Maggie just go, "Oh," and that just stuck with me. I realized that my place in that aircraft and in that country was to be the person holding that guy's hand. And that's all I wanted. That's all I wanted in that given moment, was somebody to tell him it was okay, and for him to be able to tell his buddy he was going to be okay.
Did you feel a sense of pride as an American when you were there helping not only of course, ultimately the Afghan civilians, but also your fellow armed service members and those working in the Afghan military as well, who were allied with the United States? How much pride did you feel knowing that you were there for a person in the most important way?
That was the coolest part about this last deployment. Like, everybody talks deployment sucks. Sometimes it sucks, but you grasp that you're there, and then you deal with it, and you have a job to do, you have a mission to complete. And the medevac mission is amazing. The Army holds the monopoly on it. We get to go out, we're the helicopters that come in, and we come pick them up. Actually, another person that I met, that I got to interact with, his name was Sam. I don't know his last name, but he was actually an interpreter, who lived in Folsom.
Wow. So we had another service member from the Sacramento area.
No, he was a civilian interpreter.
Oh, he was civilian interpreter. Okay. Got it.
An interpreter who grew up in Folsom area and worked in Afghanistan, as an interpreter for Americans to the locals. And
wow.
It was funny running into him.
Small world, literally. I mean,
but there were multiple times where we could help on a big level. You'd have people that would come in that were in just accidents, like rolling off the side of a road, like not because of the war, but that happened. You just be able to help one person or another, or if it's going out and making sure that you got a pocket full of candy or something like that,
right.
If you hear children,
sure,
or something like that. So being there to be helpful was definitely a big difference for me.
I keep thinking about the fact that you're from the Sacramento area, and you just mentioned Folsom, and a U.S. Marine sergeant named Tyler Andrews was catastrophically wounded in that suicide blast that happened about 2 weeks ago in Afghanistan. And he is, from the last update, he is still alive, and I believe fighting for his life still, and his family is by his side at a hospital in Germany. And of course, unfortunately, we lost Nicole G., who is from Roseville, and she was also in Afghanistan during that blast. And a lot of people had seen the picture of her holding that child, and she said, "I love my job." And it just goes to show you, just a testament to the humanity in the hearts of our service members who really care about service and protecting others. And I remember the first time I met you, and I just wanted to hug it out with you, because, you told me my job is very clear. It is to protect this country from enemies, foreign and domestic. And I think people always think a war is away from you. It's not near you, but your job is not just away, it's near, it's always, and it's always ever present to protect Americans from enemies, foreign and domestic. And that just really stuck with me, man. I remember you told me that in the studio, and you're like, there are people out there, take sides, politicize, have certain opinions about it. And I remember at the time I asked you, how do you feel about people who both support you and maybe vocally against military intervention, or maybe not necessarily supportive of armed forces? And you looked at me calmly and you said, ultimately we're here to defend, the rights of Americans and their safety and the Constitution, and people can have their opinion and that's their right. And it really just blew me away, because quite frankly, I was expecting to be like, it's not very nice, I don't like those people, but you believe and you are convicted about what you say, and that it's not about an opinion, it's about the truth and the reality and the profound nature of the job that you do. And it's very clear to you. And that's why I have so much respect for you and for service members in this country. But tell us a little bit about what was the reason why you decided to join? This would have been before 9/11, I think, right? Or was it after for you that you decided to join?
After, when 9/11 happened, I remember being in Mr. Weber's 7th grade science class at Louis Pasteur Middle School in, what is it? Is it Citrus Heights? It's over by Casa, where Casa Roble, and so right over there. That, for me, I remember seeing the second plane. That was big for me. And then seeing my friends who were older after that leaving and joining, that for me clicked. I knew a bunch of people who ended up joining the service, and going on to do great things. And that, for me, that was one of those things I wanted to do. Both of my great uncles, my grandfathers, were in the service at one point. And my great uncle Bill was a big part of my life. And he told me that I needed to do my service to our country. Right. So that was a big part for me. And it stuck with me. I didn't think I would be like a lifer. I left active service like in 2014 and came and moved out this way with the DC National Guard. Now I still work for him full time, but I'm a DC National Guardsman. And it's funny when we talked in the studio and I said, against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that could have been more proven than what happened down at the Capitol. I was there on that night. I was out there. My picture actually ended up on a bunch of different media sites, standing with a riot shield. And I didn't think I would be, having to protect foreign and domestic, right here at the Capitol.
Literally, just right there in front of you. Yeah. Literally
right here in our backyard. So that, that for me is that big part. And it's, like you were saying before, if somebody wants to sit there and chant and protest and do all that, that is absolutely your right. Biggest thing I would put out to people on a personal level is your rights don't outweigh other people's rights.
Right.
So if you want to be that person who wants to go out and protest, yes, be heard. Do what you need to be heard. Make sure that you're doing it A, legally, B, make sure you're not infringing on other people's rights. An escalated situation is always going to seem like an escalated situation. Whereas if you take a situation that could be escalated and you de-escalate and you speak to an intelligent level to where they're understanding why you are protesting and understanding your thoughts and opinions, but you can't just shove your own down somebody else's throat and tell them that they're wrong. They're allowed to as well.
Right. Just as a regular old citizen, I sometimes it feels like we've forgotten that, right? Like it is possible to have a civil, peaceful public discourse, and it just feels like just doesn't exist anymore. Everything's like just so polarized, and it's sad, man, because like we've talked about this stuff in depth, you and I, and you're like, this is not what it's about. I mean, this is not why I joined. I joined because it is, as fluffy as it might sound, it is about unity. It is about understanding our identity as Americans and protecting that. And sometimes it gets lost in the fray. It gets lost in the melee with public discourse, and it sucks. I just wish that more people could think like that. And here you are, a member of the military coming forward and being like, let's not forget about the important, the essential parts of why I do what I do and essential parts of being an American. So thank you for saying that, by the way. You and I, go ahead.
Our freedoms that we enjoy is we enjoy them because of everyone, right? And it's not the, super rich people, or it's not the, politicians. It's our entire country. It's what makes America America.
Right.
It's what it says on the Statue of Liberty. Bring us, you're tired, you're sick, you're hungry. Like, we should be there. I know I've had people ask, what do I think about, the U.S. bringing in, people from Afghanistan right now as refugees. Like, absolutely. If they supported us, we should support them. And guess what? We do that for every other country too. It is not just, centralized to that. If all of a sudden Australia said we needed to bring refugees, absolutely, we're going to open the doors. So if one of our other allies said we need your help, we're going, for this, that's what we're going to do. That bond, that friendship, that's what's going to bring us together. And I remember the days after 9/11, and you saw everyone unite. Unfortunately, it was against a common enemy, but you saw a lot of people, you saw more united than you saw people divided. Now, obviously, there's always a bad egg and bad things happen. But those people came together because they knew what we needed to do, because there was a common enemy, and it wasn't trying to divide ourselves against, whatever it may be.
Right.
I think the newsroom, Jeff Bridges, right? His speech,
the TV show Newsroom, right? You're right.
Yeah, that speech that he gave when he said,
I remember that opening scene, right, from the first one.
I could not believe that. I watched that for the first time on a YouTube clip or something.
Yeah.
I saw it and I was like, wow. Like, that hit home, and I just started rewatching, Googling what he said.
Right.
Bit of that was factual.
Yeah. Yeah.
They there and they hit you in the chest with, here's a bunch of information. Here's how you can do this. And that for me is that big fat check of what we need as a country.
Yeah.
And I know there's one thing that, before, as we've talked before, that a lot of things that bring us together, especially in the veteran community, is being able to speak to one another about our experiences. And that's one thing that a lot of community has been able to help with, is when you need to talk, when you need to get something to lighten the load. Because, I can, call or DM you, say, hey man, what's up? Some people don't have that. And that sense of community is something that's going to hopefully come back.
What do you hope for as far as American civilians who are seeing the war end after 20 years and are coming home? What do you hope that American citizens understand about those service members coming back? And also, what would you hope for the future of service members in the United States and how they're treated? And what would you like to see change personally as far as the treatment and the reassurance and the support for service members? Whether that's, the VA or, taking care of them when they come back, or, just in general.
There's a lot of organizations that have opened their doors to veterans. There's a lot of, people out there to talk to. I think the biggest thing for me, if you do run into someone, that's a vet, that's maybe, between the ages of 25 and 35, and you see, maybe they've got scarring or something like that. Like, I understand, like, coming up and being sincere and saying thank you for your service is always great. Nobody is ever going to say, well, yeah, okay, bye. We're thankful for the support, because in previous years, other veterans of other conflicts, have not received that same amount of support, the same amount of care. Vietnam vets, to be exactly specific, they did not get what we have gotten.
Right.
There's definitely a ton of people that have reached out. I've seen across all the social media platforms of support for those soldiers and stuff like that. And that's the war that I don't want to see lost, is the war within. I don't want to see somebody who's battling with conflict about what they did, whether it was Iraq, whether it is Afghanistan. I don't want to hear about somebody, you know, taking their own life because they lost that war. That for me is one of the biggest things, because people can do so much more. Growing up, there was a lot of suicide in my life. I, from the time I was in like sixth grade, I had a kid that I knew quite well. Between sixth and seventh grade, he committed suicide, and throughout the years of hearing about people who've done that, and it's sad. It's sad because at some point they touch someone to where they remember that person. Like you and I remember a point, just going to King's Dominion. There's parts of that day that I will forever hold, and until I am old and decrepit, and it's just one of those things, is like, I'm gonna hold on to that. Like, I remember my friend Darik in this day, and that will live in infamy for me. Like, it's always gonna be there. And that's the same with the events that happened in Afghanistan that you were a part of, or that your loved ones were a part of. That is always going to be there with them. For me, it's not as hard because I went out and I helped. And I love the fact that I went out and helped. There are other parts that are helping, but they are, stressful to think about, and they're distressing. But what those other people did is worth it. Those other lives that were lost were not in vain. They were in support. It was a stepping stone up. Now, I know that some people don't like the end of a conflict, the way it happened, but it's just, it is what it is. We can't sit there and think about how things could have been better,
Right.
could have been different. It's a butterfly effect at that point. Well, if this did this, well, then this did that.
Right. Right. It's just hypotheses. Yeah. I mean, it's not the
Exactly.
reality of what happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I can ask you this question, just personal level, and some people, I know this sounds funny to even ask it. It sounds like a dumb question, but not everybody has the same response. As a member and of the armed services, and a member, or as a soldier who had done 2 tours of duty in Afghanistan, are you happy that the war is over officially?
I am happy that for the foreseeable future, I won't have to leave my family for about a year at a time. Um, but I wouldn't trade either of them for the world. The experiences, the people I've met, from countries, going from Australia to Romania to to Czechs. I mean, like, I've seen parts of the world that I never would have dreamed of seeing. I spent, you know, 2, 3 weeks on a base in Kyrgyzstan and got to stare at the
Wow.
mountains of Kyrgyzstan, the mountains and canyons and vast deserts of Afghanistan. Uh, they're beautiful. I flew through canyons that would make the Grand Canyon look like they're beautiful.
Yeah.
The sun, the stars. Um, I would never change those experiences. Um, and I try to hold on to the good in that. And that's, you know, I don't think of things I missed, you know, or times I could have spent with other people. I think of the times that I spent with the people that I was there with. Maybe I talked to somebody there and had an uplifting attitude that day and it made them feel better. You know, they felt better because I was kind of happy that day, you
Right.
know, something I said.
Yeah. You were telling me earlier about the National Guard Youth Challenge.
Yeah, the DC
And tell
Guard,
us about that program.
the DC National Guard Youth Challenge Academy. Yep. It's a great way to help youth get into a track of life to see that they have you know, a way to get some discipline and to be educated. I know there's a lot of things throughout DC, kids not growing up in the best neighborhoods, stuff like that. It's a way for them to see that they can get out. General Errol Schwartz was a former commanding general of the DC National Guard, started this program, and they do a lot of stuff that, you know, helps you to see that the military could be a positive path for you, or what other the path, you know, you may have. It pushes them forward. So that's a program that is built into the DC National Guard that we try to support. I know I've talked to many students of theirs who see us come in with the helicopters, and they want to know everything about it. And
Mm-hmm.
they come talk to the pilots, because everybody wants to talk to the pilots, of course, because pilots are super cool.
They are.
Well, the pilots couldn't be cool without me fixing the aircraft.
That's
So,
exactly right, my friend. They wouldn't take off the ground without you.
exactly.
Yeah.
But we go hand in hand. I
Yeah.
fly a lot of very skilled pilots, and I fly with some great crew chiefs, some great medics.
Yeah.
We get to do some cool stuff.
I was looking at the website for the National Guard Youth Challenge. If you go to ngchallenge.org, you can find a program near you as well. So, but thanks for that information. Kev, I feel like I can never say this enough. And, you know, I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for your service. And, you know, we love you, brother, and we support you fully. This community supports you. We've got your back.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that too.